Hi, my name's James. I'm a psychologist from Sydney, Australia, and today I want to talk to you about the lethargy cycle. So, a common problem that I see in my practice is that of low mood, specifically low mood and inactivity. Now, what we're going to be talking about today is how these two things appear to interact in order to keep us stuck in low mood longer. So, we're going to start by mapping out the lethargy cycle. First, we're going to start with low mood. Now, when we experience low mood, of course, we also experience low energy. Now, I don't know about you, but when I experience low mood, I don't tend to really feel like doing anything. I have low motivation, and I tend to find myself staying longer on the couch or longer in bed, and less gets done. So, next on our mapping is going to be do less. Now, when we do less, naturally we have less opportunities to do the things that used to make us feel a bit better. Now, these could be social activities, these could be work-related, these could also just be daily routines around the house. Things that would otherwise give us a sense of, small achievements, like we're getting on top of our lives. So when we do less, we also have less opportunities to feel better. And I'm going to write this as less opportunities for positive reinforcement, because that's a more technically correct way of putting it. And when we have less opportunities to feel better, well, that's going to cycle back into our low mood. And here we see our lethargy cycle. Now, often what we do, and this makes perfect sense, is that we wait until we feel a certain way before we go out and do that thing. So we wait until we feel motivated, and then we go out and do that thing in the world that we are now energized to do. And usually this is a good enough thing to do. This is a good enough impetus to do something, is to wait until we feel like doing it and then doing it. However, when we look at this model, we can see that we don't want to do much at all. We have low energy, low motivation. That's just going to come along with the low mood. So waiting until we feel a certain way before we do something might just keep us stuck in this cycle longer than we need to. Now, what I want to propose is that we flip things around, and instead of waiting to feel a certain way before we do something, I'm going to propose that we do something in order for the chance that we might feel a different way. So rather than waiting till we feel energized and motivated to do something, we are doing something with the hope of feeling more energized and motivated. So it's just flipping that around, flipping that order around. Now, so often people will say, look, James, I think we should actually we need to focus here. We need to address the energy issue, and then I'd be doing more. And yes, usually that is the case. However, if we take a step further back in our model, we can see that the low mood is going to be impeding that energy that we would usually be able to rely on. So it's in these cases when we do feel like we are stuck in this lethargy cycle that we need to not wait until we feel a certain way. We need to get rid of this part and branch off here and do despite how we're feeling in that moment. Yes, we're not going to feel motivated or energized to get off the couch or to go to the shops or to do the dishes or to go to work. But we're saying here, I'm going to do it despite how I feel, because I stand a much better chance of shifting my mood if I go out into the world or go about my day and do it despite having the low energy, because I might just feel better. I might not, but I stand a hell of a better chance of potentially feeling better if I do this. So this is how we break the lethargy cycle, is that we do despite how we feel. Okay, so now that we have the insight into what the lethargy cycle is and what the motivation is for us to do despite, the next question is, well, what kinds of things are we doing? Are we just sitting on the couch watching TV on our own? Or is it a little bit more than that? Yeah, it's a little bit more than that. Okay, so to help us understand this next part, we're going to draw a little matrix. And by the way, this is typically referred to as behavioural activation. Activation. How about I put an I in there? Okay. So we want to kind of answer two questions when we're thinking about behavioural activation. The first question is, what am I going to be doing? And the second question is, how am I going to be doing it? All right. Now, the first answer to the what question is going to be quite straightforward. Do I find this activity enjoyable, satisfying, pleasurable? Now, it could involve watching a movie, or it could involve playing video games or reading a book or something like that. But we're going to have to consider the how column before we just commit to doing those things. But yeah, that's part of the what column. Is this something that I find pleasurable, engaging, entertaining, something like that. Now, the second quadrant, or the second column of the second box in the column of the what column is this something that will give me a sense of either achievement or mastery? We don't want to just be focusing on activities that make us, or give us a sense of pleasure. We also want to be focusing on things that give us a sense of achievement, of getting things done that we want to get done or we need to get done, and also of doing things that we feel personally competent in. And that's referring to the mastery there. So some examples of achievement, it could be just ticking off things on our to-do list. It could just be household chores. Maybe it's just having a shower. But things where at the end of the day, we can reflect back and think, you know what, I took care of myself today. Or I got that thing done. I ticked that thing off my to-do list. These are activities that would fall under the achievement category. Mastery, now this is very different for a lot of people. We need to think about things where we feel like we excel in that thing. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant. It doesn't have to be a particularly unique skill or anything like that. For some people, it's their job. For other people, it's a particular video game or board game. It's different for everyone, but if we can identify something that gives us that sense of mastery, that sense of competence, well, then that would certainly fall in that quadrant there. So it's not just about the pleasure quadrant. It's not just about the achievement mastery quadrant. We want to have a bit of both. Okay. But before we can just stop there and start doing despite, we need to consider this last column over here, the how column. How am I going to be doing these things? Well, we just need to keep in mind that humans are animals. We're animals, so we're going to want to be doing things outdoors, preferably something that's a little bit more active, getting our muscles moving, our bodies more activated. These are going to be things that are more likely to shift our mood. So I'm going to put down here active / outdoors. Simple example, if we're talking about reading a book, can we read that book in the park? If we're talking about watching a movie, can we walk to the cinema and watch a movie there? Now, in addition to being an animal, we're a social animal, right? So we're quite a social species. So if we can tag on a social element to this how, then again, we're getting a hell of a lot closer to doing an activity that is likely to break this lethargy cycle and give us some of that positive reinforcement that we referred to earlier. So if we can do something from the what column and something from the how column, we're getting very close to doing something that is likely to be breaking this cycle. Something that is going to be fitting into the definition of behavioural activation. Now, is this going to be the solution for all forms of low mood? No, it's not. There are going to be forms of low mood that benefit from more psychological interventions or pharmacological interventions. So, of course, it's always better to discuss these things with your trusted health professional. Maybe it's your GP. But in the case of low mood, behavioural activation and an understanding of the lethargy cycle is usually a very good first place to start. So I would encourage you, if you're experiencing some low mood, in addition to speaking to a health professional, to maybe get started thinking about how could I break my lethargy cycle and how could I engage in some behavioural activation. Okay, that's all for today's video. I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you in the next one.